Daf Yomi, Tractate Chullin, page 32, top of the page, with the words Nishchata behema acheres ima. Nishchata behema acheres ima l'Rabbi Nassan pa'al pasula behema kasheo l'Rawanan pa'kasheh behema pasulo. But if another animal was inadvertently slaughtered together with the red heifer in some action, according to Rabbi Natan, who holds that the slaughter of non-sacred animals without intent is valid, the red heifer is disqualified because an additional labor was performed with its slaughter, and the other animal is fit for consumption as its slaughter was valid. According to the rabbis, who hold that slaughter of non-sacred animals without intent is not considered slaughter, according to the rabbis who hold that slaughter of non-sacred animals without intent is not considered slaughter, the red heifer is fit for use in the purification rite because no other labor was performed with its slaughter, and the other animal is unfit for consumption. Pshita nishchat behema acheres ubinasan tzrich aleh sankanai d'ramin v'shavadaiso machmon v'loiso v'lechaveoto Hechinami kigoyin sheshachat shtei porois behadi hadodi aval behema dechuli nimalo kamash melon. The Gemara asks, that is obvious. Why did Rava have to teach that? The Gemara answers, it was necessary for Rava to teach. The halacha, according to the opinion of Rabbi Natan, in the case where another animal was inadvertently slaughtered in the same action with the red heifer, it may enter your mind to say the merciful one states with regard to the slaughter of the red heifer, and you shall give it to Lazar the priest, and he shall slaughter it before him, Numbers 19:3, from which it is inferred one may slaughter it, but not it and another animal simultaneously. And what are the circumstances of that prohibition? It is a case where one slaughtered two red heifers at the same time. But in a case where one slaughtered a red heifer together with a non-sacred animal, say no, that it does not disqualify the red heifer. Therefore, Rava teaches us that even slaughter with a non-sacred animal disqualifies the red heifer. Asach de la asima, divrei hakol pasulo, nechtecha de la asima, divrei kol kasheo. Rava adds, if one slaughtered a red heifer in the same action and cut a gourd together with it, everyone agrees that the red heifer is disqualified. What? Are you saying that if you cut a red heifer and a gourd, that the red heifer is disqualified? Why? Okay, let's see. If one slaughtered a red heifer and a gourd was inadvertently cut together with it in the same action, everyone agrees that the red heifer is fit for use in the purification rite, as that is not labor that disqualified red heifer, and it is also not excluded by the derivation from the verse, and he shall slaughter it. That's the end of that. Why anyone would slaughter a red heifer and a gourd in one shot beats me, but whatever. That's the case. And now the Mishnah. Zog the Mishnah. It's a new Mishnah. Zog the Mishnah. Naf l'sakin v'gbihon. Naf takin v'gbihon. He shchiz es kasakin v'of bo chaver v'shachad. Im shah kedei shchita pesulo. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Im shah kedei bikur. The Mishnah says, if when one was in the middle of slaughtering an animal, the knife fell, and he lifted it and then completed the slaughter, or if his garments fell, and he lifted them and then completed the slaughter, his garments fell. That'd be a funny scene. He slaughters an animal, his pants fall down. Anyway, it says his garments fell. What does that mean? His garments fell and he lifted them and completed the slaughter. Or if he had honed the knife and grew weary before completing the slaughter, and another came and slaughtered the animal, if he interrupted the slaughter in one of these ways or in a different way for an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter, the slaughter is not valid. Lie. Rabbi Shimon says the slaughter is not valid if you interrupt the slaughter for an interval equivalent to the duration of an examination. The duration of his examination. Gemorre, zog de heilige Talmud, mai kedei shchita, omarav kedei shchitas behema acheres. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter? Rav said, it means an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of an animal, not the duration required to complete the act of slaughter that was interrupted. Lie, 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 lie. Amalei Rav Kahana, ורבסתי לרב כדי שחיטת בהמה לבהמה. ואויף לאויף אוי דילמה, אף בהמה לאויף. Rav Kahana ravasi to Rav, it is the interruption that invalidates the slaughter at an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of another animal for an animal, meaning, in a case where an animal was being slaughtered, and an interval equivalent to the duration of the act of slaughter of another bird for a bird, or perhaps it was the interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of an animal even for a bird, and even if the interruption is shorter, does it invalidate the slaughter? Amalo lo avi bedichna. Bebe Habibi the Shale. Rav said to them, when we study this topic, I did not feel sufficiently intimate with my beloved uncle, Rabbi Chia, such that I could ask him that question. Rav was able only to transmit that which he heard from Rabbi Chia, but was unable to resolve their dilemma. Itmar Omer Rav Kedei Shchitas Behemel Behema V'oif L'oif U'Shmuel Amar Afil Behemel L'oif וכן יוסרבין, אמר רבי יוחנן, אפילו בהמה לאויב. It was stated that there was an Amoraic dispute with regards to this matter. Rav said an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of another animal for an animal, and an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of another bird for a bird. And Shmuel said an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of an animal, even for a bird. And likewise, when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he said that Rabbi Yochanan said an interval equivalent to the duration of an act of slaughter of an act of animal for a bird. Rabbi Chanina Omar, כדי שיביא בהמה חרס וישחוט. איוב יפילו מעלמא, נשאת דבריך לשיעורים. Rabbi Hanania said, I'm sorry, not Hanin, Rabbi Hanania. Rabbi Hanania said an interval equivalent to the period in which one can bring another animal, slaughter it. The Gemara asks, does that mean the time in which one can bring an animal even from anywhere else, regardless of the distance? Occasionally there is no animal available in close proximity. If so, you have rendered your statement subject to circumstances. It is not applying uniformly to all cases. The Papa said the practical difference between the opinion of Rabbi Hanania and that of the other sages is in a case where there is an animal standing before the slaughterer, and it is necessary to cast it to the ground in order to slaughter it. Even the Rabbi Hanania disregards the time required to bring the animal from elsewhere. But the Rabbi Hanania holds that the slaughter is invalidated only if the interruption lasts an interval equivalent to the duration of the act of casting the animal to the ground and slaughtering it. The rabbis invalidate the slaughter even if an interval has elapsed. That is equivalent to the duration of the act of slaughtering the animal without casting it to the ground. The Gemara cites an additional opinion with regard to the duration of the interruption that invalidates the slaughter. They said in the west, meaning Eretz Yisrael, in the name of Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, the duration of the interruption that invalidates slaughter is equivalent to the period in which he can lift the animal from the ground and then lay it back down on the ground and slaughter it. The interval is calculated based on the size of the animal in question. The duration of the interruption that invalidates slaughter of a small animal is equivalent to the period necessary to lift, lay down, and slaughter a small animal. And the duration of the interruption that invalidates slaughter of a large animal is equivalent to the period necessary to lift, to lay down, and slaughter a large animal. Rava said in the case of one who slaughters with a blunt knife, even the completion of the slaughter lasts the entire day, the slaughter is valid. Even if it lasts the whole day, it's valid, and there is no provided that there is no interruption amidst the slaughter. Rava raises a dilemma. If there were several short interruptions during a single act of slaughter, what is the halacha in terms of whether they join to invalidate the slaughter? If the sum of the durations of all the interruptions is greater than the maximum permitted interruption, The Gemara says, and let Rava resolve. The Gemara challenges this, and let Rava resolve the dilemma from his own statement, as he permitted the act of slaughter that lasts the entire day, during which there were presumably brief interruptions throughout. Apparently, the interruptions do not join together. The Gemara responds, there Rava was referring to a case where there was no interruption, as the slaughter drew the knife back and forth throughout. That's a long time to do that. It's hard to imagine a whole day. Okay, whatever. Rav Huna, son of Natan, raises a dilemma. If one cut the majority of the simanim and then interrupted the slaughter before proceeding to cut the minority of the simanim, what is the halacha? The Gemara answers Teku. We don't know. The dilemma shall stand unresolved until the coming of Messiah, the son of David. May it be soon and in our date. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Im she'el kedei biku, mai kedei biku, Omer Rabbi Yochanan kedei biku, shel chachamim gein, netan devarech l'shuin, ela kedei biku tava chacham. The Mishnah teaches that Rabbi Shimon says, this slaughter is not valid if you interrupt the slaughter for an interval equivalent to the duration of examination. The Gemara asks, what is an interval equivalent to the duration of examination? Rabbi Yochanan said, it is an interval equivalent to the duration of examination of the knife by a sage prior to the slaughter of the animal. I don't think that's a considerable amount of time. You probably got a good 15 minutes there. I mean, you're really examining something, and you look at the knife. That's not just like one, two. It takes probably at least 5 minutes. Okay. The Gemara objects, if so, you have rendered your statement subject to circumstances as sometimes the sage is near and sometimes the sage is far. And the time required for examination varies accordingly. The Gemara responds, rather, the reference is to an interval equivalent to the duration of an examination performed by a slaughterer who is a sage. In that case, travel time is not factored in. Only the time of the examination itself is considered, and this does not vary. Still not boom, boom, boom. You have to look at it very carefully. Alright. Whatever it is. Okay. That's the Gemara, new Mishnah. Zog the Mishnah, Shachat is a Veshet, Pasak is a Geres. Pasak is a Geres, Vachal Kachol is a Veshet. Shachat Erameyamim Tin La, Ad Shemeita. Shehechli Diz Hasakin, Tachat, Asheni Upasako. Rabbi Sheva Omer Nevela, Rabbi Kiva Omer Treifa. The Mishnah says if one cut the gullet in the standard manner with a back and forth movement, and he severed the windpipe not in the standard manner, or if one severed the windpipe and thereafter cut the gullet, or if one cut one of the simanim and waited until the animal died, or if one cut one siman and concealed the knife beneath the second siman and severed it from below. Rabbi Sheva says the animal is an unslaughtered carcass and imparts ritual purity through contact with it and carrying it. Rabbi Akiva says, the animal is a treifa, and although eating is prohibited, it does not transmit ritual impurity. Kol Amar Rabbi Sheva Mishum Rabbi Yehoshua Kol Shenitzela V'Shchita So Nevela Kol Shechita So Keroi V'Dor Echad Gom Lo Lifsol Treifa V'Hodelo Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Sheva stated a principle in the name of Rabbi Yehoshua: any animal that was rendered unfit during its slaughter because the slaughter was not performed properly is an unslaughtered carcass. Any animal whose slaughter was performed properly and another matter caused it to become unfit is a treifa. And Rabbi Akiva conceded to his opinion. Okay? Talmud. Zog the Gemara, Shachat the Veshet, Fuchule. The Mishnah teaches, if you know what? Starting the new Gemara, so we'll start and then we'll stop here.